Welcome to a very special edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series. Today, we honor a true titan, a visionary, and someone that will be sorely missed in Kansas City and beyond, Mrs. Anita Dixon-Brown. She was the former executive director of the Mighty Mutual Musicians Foundation and was in charge of Kansas City's designation as a UNESCO Creative City of Music. She was born on September 26, 1956, while she left us suddenly on January 4th, 2026. She was only 69, yet her towering influence on jazz and culture in Kansas City was one that is hard to put words to and resonated into the world at large. We take a look at her towering legacy through the words of Kansas City musicians like Lonnie McFadden and friends far and wide. Long live Anita, and dig this retrospective on a Kansas City force that is sorely missed yet will never ever be forgotten. Let's lay out the life of a Kansas City legend, shall we? Anita's journey began on September 26, 1956 in Kansas City, Missouri. Born to Lloyd Dixon Sr. and Frozella James Dixon, she spent much of her youth in Denver, Colorado, where she graduated from South High in 1975. However, the pull of her birthplace remained undeniable. She eventually returned to Kansas City, a place whose rich jazz heritage and community spirit would become the cornerstone of her life's work. Her academic path led her to Donnelly College, where she graduated in 1984 with a Bachelor of Science in Social Science. Her commitment to her community was so profound that her alma mater later inducted her into its Alumni Hall of Fame. Recognizing that Anita did not just study social science, she practiced it daily through her unwavering devotion to the public good. Anita wore many hats: journalist, educator, and historian, but her most vital role was that of a cultural protector. She dedicated herself to ensuring that the contributions of African American musicians, particularly those who defined the Kansas City jazz scene, were recognized and preserved for future generations. Her media career began in 1982, bolstered by the support of the very musicians who frequented the 18th and Vine District. They recognized in her a dedicated advocate who would fight to restore the area's historical prestige. Anita viewed that early support as a lifelong pledge, and she spent the following decades fulfilling that promise with timeless energy. Anita's influence reached far beyond local borders. During the 1990s, she collaborated with the National Park Service to document and protect landmarks associated with the Underground Railroad. Her expert testimony before the U.S. Senate played a pivotal role in the 1998 enactment of the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom Act. This landmark legislation paved the way for a network that now encompasses hundreds of historical sites across the country. Furthermore, in 1992, she launched Passage Unlimited, a pioneering tour company dedicated to Black history, proving that heritage tourism could be a powerful tool for education. As the leader of the Mutual Musicians International, she acted as a bridge between the past and the future, keeping the stories of the 18th and Vine District alive for new audiences. One of her most remarkable achievements occurred during a period of significant personal health struggles. Despite recovering from major heart surgery in 2015, she spearheaded Kansas City's application to the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. Her passion was so evident that during a presentation in Kentucky, she moved international officials by singing a traditional hymn a cappella. Anita's work also transformed the professional landscape for artists. In 2018, she successfully lobbied the U.S. Department of Labor to recognize musician as a legitimate trade for federal apprenticeship programs. This led to the creation of the American Music Apprenticeship Program, or AMAP, which continues to provide a structured path for aspiring artists today. In the summer of 2025, through a collaborative effort with the historic Boone Tabernacle Church of God in Christ in Kansas City, she helped launch an inaugural program introducing community youth to a diverse range of musical genres. Certain individuals leave behind a legacy that resonates like a timeless symphony. Even after the final note is played, the essence of their work continues to inspire and guide. Anita Joyce Dixon-Brown was one such visionary. Her life served as a masterclass in cultural preservation, advocacy, and the transformative power of storytelling. And for this jazz radio host that started Neon Jazz in 2011, Anita was one of the early forces in Kansas City that I interviewed, worked with, and fervently admired for the 15 years I've been covering jazz in Kansas City and around the globe. We first interviewed in the main room in the Mutual Musicians Foundation in 2014, thus kindling a friendship that endured until she unexpectedly passed. I told her from the first conversation that I was not interested in the politics of jazz. I was dedicated to honoring the art form that has been progressive, lively, and served as a beacon for countless generations that arrived here into America from Africa. We shared that love of honoring this art form. And I'm also very proud that she decided to do one of the kindest yet biggest things I've ever asked of her. After I received a fan letter to Neon Jazz, I urged Anita to fly in a father and daughter duo to Kansas City to see the Count Basie Orchestra on International Jazz Day 2025. Super jazz fan and Count Basie expert John McCargo in Texas and his daughter Tracy Ostabo in California were flown in for the festivities. That was one of the most sublime moments of my entire existence, and she was central to making that happen. Prior to the trip, an elated Tracy talked about the generosity of Anita.
Well, thank you and Anita and the foundation and UNESCO and all those that are involved in making this happen, because it is truly a once-in-a-lifetime dream that he, I'm sure, never thought was going to be something he would experience. And he's never received anything like this in terms of giving back to him for his, he's been a giver his whole life. So I applaud you. I am humbled by your gesture, and we both appreciate it.
So I want to honor her by getting a host of voices from the jazz community and beyond to give their stories on her towering impact and love. And before we do that, here are some of the clips of Anita speaking, highlights from the 5 interviews that we did over the years.
Okay. Challenge.
So we're coming up on 100 years. What's going to happen? What kind of celebrations? What do you want this town and the world to know about the foundation and its place in history?
I want this, first of all, we hold a responsibility to those who came before us. I want them to know that we remember how important this was, because I'm that kind of person spiritually. I believe that they came to do what they did and left us a responsibility. And sometimes I see that responsibility shirked in a number of ways, but I want to see them appeased first. That everything that I lived for and everything that I came to do, I made sure that people remembered them first and foremost. Celebration-wise, it's once the momentum gains, and I feel that happening after I get back from Copenhagen and paying our dues to Ben Webster's, I see a celebration that is second to none on a global basis. Look at what's happening in jazz globally. The International Jazz Day celebration, Osaka, Japan, Istanbul, Turkey. These people are beginning to understand that jazz is such a world thing that Kansas City will not be able to contain the whole thing. Yeah. They just can't. Yeah. Thus the conference for next year. Yeah. Thus the reaching out to say that the world, once the world realizes what's happened here, it's going to change Kansas City.
Yeah.
So let's say in 2026, January of 2026, we sit down and we interview from the Mutual Musicians Foundation, and there's a 10-year celebration for the station. What are you going to say to me that you are happy to see that's happened to the radio station, the radio voice of jazz in Kansas City?
I'm going to be happy to say that we returned the study of music back to the school systems. I'm going to be happy to say that we returned the Working Musicians Union back to them. That you now as a musician are paid a living wage to take care of your family. Just because you chose to become a musician doesn't mean you chose a lesser part of being able to make a living.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that this radio station took those concepts, because we're going to start something called the American Music Apprenticeship Program that works directly with the union to restore those things. But we needed a voice of our own.
Yeah.
One that no one could censor us or tell us that we couldn't do it. So I'm going to be 2026, God willing that I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be saying those things. We returned music and the study of music back into the urban communities. We are now training our children to become professional musicians with a gig that pays money.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking people on international trips, and international people are going to be coming to Kansas City to study and to be a part of this heritage. And all those colleges and universities and things like that will be benefiting from that.
Yeah.
But they're going to make a mecca to 1823 Highland.
Yeah.
We hope to have our own studios. You know, we have that empty space on the side.
Yeah.
And every time I go in there, I dream of studio and recording studio and bigger, you know, radio. That's what I dream about.
Yeah.
And I figure it like this. If I can dream and get one radio station, oh, shoot, we can do this all over the country.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah. Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. To be a full-time musician, to love to do what you do and get paid for it. That's one of the most important things, to preserve and take care of those people who preserve and take care of us through their creativity. There's got to be a better give and take given on here. And in 10 years, I see this as just like when they were singing Going to Kansas City back in the 20s and the 30s. We were a wide open city, wide open. And we had work for everybody. I want to see that again.
So I want to start getting into the voices of the musicians. The first voice I want to highlight in our observance of Anita is the legendary and mighty percussionist of the Headhunters and Bill Summers. They had a special relationship, and he knew what her impact on Kansas City and beyond was. Have a listen.
Kansas City is a very historic place, musically, you know, artistically, economically, you know, whatever it is, chemistry, I don't care what it is. It's a city that is, you know, blazes the trail in different areas. You know, especially with Anita Dixon. See, you very seldom meet people like that are really dedicated and focused and keep on the right track. That's a plus, is having that kind of person in the community that's trying to push forward culture, compatibility, you know, people getting along, people understanding each other's culture. You know, that's a special gift. She is one of the major parts that makes me want to come here. You know, just having some people that are thinking like that is a blessing.
Another titan of the Kansas City scene is the mighty Lonnie McFadden. At the helm of Lonnie's Reno Club in KC, he is by far the best jazz entertainer in Kansas City and amongst the best on this entire planet. He had a special relationship with Anita that extended into his legendary McFadden family and beyond. Here's Lonnie to talk about it.
So Anita Dixon was a titan in this town. She did so many things, further the envelope of so many historical fronts in jazz music. How did you meet her? What was kind of your relationship, and how did you get to know Anita?
I kind of knew of her because my brother Ronald and her brother, I'm not even able to call his name now. Oh God, this is terrible. Ralph, my God, yeah. Ralph and my brother. Okay, wake up, my brain is not working. Okay, Ralph Dixon, who is Anita's brother, and my brother Ronald were very good friends. I mean, way back from the 90s, they used to go shoot pool. They were two of the better African American pool players in our from the hood, and they used to play in these pool leagues, and they would, both of Ronald and Ralph were the kind of pool players that if you were playing 8-ball, it would come down to who got to break. If Ronald broke and he got one in, game was over. They would run the table, him and Ralph. So that's how I got to know Anita from getting to know Ralph. Now, when I first met Anita and had an actual conversation, she was in charge of the Mutual Musicians Foundation. And I guess this had to be about 2010 or something like that. 2010, 2012. I don't know exactly, but this was our first time really getting to know each other when she was in charge of the Mutual Musicians Foundation. I went down there, and she let me know about the new things that were going on, and told me how much dues were at that point, and I paid them, and we just hit it off, and she just eventually well, not eventually, almost immediately, she started involving me in things that I never had been involved in. I'm going to be honest with you. She brought me to the table on things that I was always overlooked. And she just felt like people like Bobby Watson, myself, and a few other younger guys, well, I call them younger, Everett Freeman, Tyree Johnson, Ernest Milton, and a few other people that had not been brought to the forefront. DeAndre Manning. She felt like all of us deserved to be heard and needed to have a voice and active participation on some of the things that were going on down there, which I appreciated it. And not only that, when she got involved with UNESCO and really was championing Kansas City as being the city of live music and stuff like that, she made sure to call me, and I was an active participant. And like I said, it wasn't just me, it was Amber, it was a lot of us, and Anita was one of those kind of people that was she was very strong on what she believed in. In other words, she didn't mind ruffling feathers. She really didn't. She didn't mind having the hard conversations. She didn't mind upsetting the powers that be. If she believed that what she was trying to do was going to push the needle forward for as authentic Kansas City jazz, she would do it. And I my head was always off to her for that, because she was up against the political situation here. I don't know much about it, but I know that she had a lot of people that didn't really want her to move forward, but she didn't care. And I used to love that about her. Had it not been for Anita, the Count Basie Orchestra would not have celebrated their centennial here in Kansas City, which I thought was huge. You know me, Joe. I'm really all about Kansas City jazz and Kansas City's history. And to me, it should have been here, and because of her, it was here. And because of her, I was a participant, which I could not have felt better. I mean, my dad used to tap dance with Count Basie, with the original, when there was Count Basie and Joe Jones and Father Time and all the original guys that put Kansas City jazz on the map. So for her to allow me to be a part of that was such an honor. And then she took it one step further. As most people know, Count Basie got discovered or got his first big break playing at the Reno Club, the original Reno Club. So what she did after the concert, she had an after-hours jam session at Lonnie's Reno Club. That whole historic tie-in, I mean, I could go on and on. I remember one time she had a fundraiser at Black Dolphin, and when she asked me to come, then she asked me to play something. Now, this was a deep thing that happened. I couldn't think of what to play, so I just played Alfie, because that's a song that my brother used to play. She just teared up, and she came up to the stage, and she just went on and on about it, and she said that was her brother, who was my brother's best friend back in the 90s. That was his favorite song, and he used to always sing it, what's it all about? Ralphie? And I just thought, I had no idea. And she said, Lonnie, and so it was this spiritual connection that I had with her, and this admiration for the way that she would champion Kansas City. I could not have been a bigger fan of hers. She's the one that made sure I met Sean Jones when he came into town. She was over the Mutual Musicians Foundation, and she made sure that I was heading the jam. I never did head the jam session because I'm be honest with you, I was always too tired. But she talked me into it. Because of her, I met Don Cheadle after he did the movie about Miles Davis. He came to Kansas City, and she made sure that I was part of the welcome gathering. She wanted him to meet me, and of course she wanted me to meet him. And I cannot. I mean, it's so many things that she did that she involved me in that I'm so thankful to have been a part of. I'm thankful that I knew her. I'm thankful that for whatever reason she respected what I do, and I'm thankful that I'm just I'm a big fan. I cannot say enough good things about her courage and her commitment to putting Kansas City and Kansas City jazz where it needs to be in the historic value. And that's my bottom line. I admire her, and I thank God that I was part of her inner circle.
So well said. And the thing that you sparked an idea in my head of knowing Anita for as long as I have. I met her at the foundation back, I believe, in 2012. She never asked for permission.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, I've known her for a while, and I've worked with her on many occasions, and she never asked for permission. And I don't say that in a way where there's some people that do it in a real body way. She did it in her way. She was definitely the type of person that was going to get you and other cats on board because they recognized the treasure that you were and are in this Kansas City lineage. Okay. And that's what she always did, is she always looked out for the musicians and the cultural heritage of this town.
Absolutely. Just everything you just said. I'm in 100% agreement with. Yes, she did. She looked out for us, man. She wanted the real Kansas City jazz story to be told, and she made sure that me and some of the people that were not part of whoever the people downtown or whoever the people are that are the money people, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I was not on that A-list at all. I never did get the call. In the early 2000s, where when Anita had a seat at the table, she made sure to include people like me and DeAndre Manning, Everett Freeman, Ernest, Tyree Johnson, and the list goes on to a lot of people that she felt like were still carrying the torch at the foundation and still carrying the torch for the people like Charlie Parker and Lester Young and Hot Lips Page and all those guys that put us on the map.
So well said. I'm so glad that you're a part of this tapestry of honoring Anita. She was a very special human being. She was the boots on the ground of Kansas City. Yes. She did everything for the right reason, and that's the thing that I knew about her, was that there was a level of integrity that's very rare in this world right now. When we see all these things unfolding in America that we're not recognizing as much as we used to, she's the kind of person that had that integrity, that would stand up and say, this is not right, or this is what we need to be doing. And she's going to be missed, because we need that in this 2026 world we're navigating.
Absolutely. Ditto to everything you said. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. You're absolutely right. And this came as such a shock to me when I saw. Actually, I received an inbox from her husband, and I was out of the country at the time, and it blew me away. Yeah. It stopped me in my tracks. I knew last year when I did the celebration with the Count Basie Orchestra that she wasn't feeling good. I knew she was ill when she came, because she wasn't there on time. And when she finally got there and wrote out checks, and she sit down with me, and she had told me about some health issues that she had, and I didn't even know. So
Yeah.
I just admired her. I loved her. I looked up to her. And like I said, because of her brother and my brother, we were connected as family friends. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful, Lonnie. I just really wanted to get a good dose of your history with her, and it was so eloquently, as usual, that you put it out there. So, Lonnie, thank you so much, man. You're an absolute treasure in this community, and I'm so glad that you're going to be a part of this memorial podcast to recognize a true Titan in Kansas City.
Back at you, Joe. I feel the same way about you and the things you're doing. So thank you. Thank you for the call. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
The legendary Deborah Brown had a special relationship with Anita, and she opened up about that bond and her enduring legacy in Kansas City. Have a listen.
So I want to begin with, how did you meet Anita, and how did you forge a friendship relationship with her?
You know, I was thinking about that when you told me about the project. And honestly, I don't remember how we met. But this is the thing. We have had a kind of a timeless relationship, and it goes back to my mom. My mom was the dean of music at the Charlie Parker Academy, and she was around during those years with Eddie Baker, who started the Charlie Parker Foundation, and she was kind of an apprentice next to him. And my mom was there as well. And I don't remember seeing her during those years, but all of our memories stem for the time that she spent there. So we had kind of an interesting relationship.
So talk to me about any projects, because I know that there was a gig at Lonnie's. There's been things that have happened throughout the years. What are some projects that you work with her that illuminates who she was and what she exemplified for not only musicians but for Kansas City?
Well, you know, she liked to bring in artists. Her biggest thing was promoting jazz artists and really promoting black jazz artists here in Kansas City, because she felt like the Kansas City scene was so enriched and it wasn't getting the kind of recognition that it deserved. So we had I think Bill came here from California. He's a drummer, and he played, you know, all over the world, and he's a very dynamic drummer that was a good friend of hers. And she did a project with him in the summertime, and I was a part of that as well, because she was developing, you know, the UNESCO cities. And it was interesting to see how she worked with him and how they, you know, worked with young people promoting, and how she was promoting a jazz get-together jazz festival here. So that was an interesting project to see how, and that was recorded. There was like several of us, and we had a roundtable discussion. So I shared my take on what it was like to be from Kansas City and travel around the world, as well as the other panel people she had on the panel. So the most dynamic thing that I can say about her is she had such a stick-to-itness, and she was so focused on what she needed to do, and she accomplished so much. It took her a while to accomplish many of these things, but some of the things it didn't. I mean, it took her many years to do that, the Cultural Cities project. But during that, you could see how she was, you know, tying up every little detail to make sure that this was running in the right way, down to the building that they were going to have, the cultural center they were trying to build on Paseo. And I thought, my goodness, this is getting massive. And she had already in the works things for the upcoming soccer thing that's coming into town. I hate to say soccer thing, but anyway, soccer thing that's coming. The World Cup. She already had that planned, what she wanted to do. On top of that, she was still doing the Count Basie Orchestra, coming in and just building all of these small festivals, but to build them to have some presence for the World Cup events. So I was a part of the I was a part of the Count Basie project. Count Basie project. It was a beautiful concert, and afterwards there was a big jam session. Like jam session we had in the old days. You don't hardly see that anymore. But all the musicians that came from New York with Count Basie Orchestra, they decided to come down, and I mean, they did not want to leave that whole night. And Anita, of course, was sitting there with her granddaughter and with all the supporters around her, a small gathering of people, but it was just a unique situation. We had people from St. Louis that came over. Denise Times came over from St. Louis. She's a jazz singer. They had many musicians that came in, sat in, and it was just exciting and so much fun. And we were there. They didn't want to leave, but I had to leave. I was so tired. I had to go. I was like, nope, I can't. So she was a part of that. Also, she had a beautiful project over at the library, at the Truman Library. That's where I really realized the scope of her abilities to gather people. There were people from all over the country, different people that came together in order to be able to make the cultural cities in Kansas City and our city a jazz city, being put on the map internationally. So she had people from California, from New York, from the Midwest, from the South. All of these representatives were there in order to be able to bolster the confidence they had in Anita in order to put this project on the road and keep it rolling. So that was, and our former mayor was there. He was, he's kind of, well, he was a blues singer. He sat in with me, but he loves music too. So, and he was Sly was there, and that was really neat. So, yeah, she was just a real go-getter, had loads and loads of energy, and she was just passionate about music. And for someone who wasn't necessarily known as a jazz musician, we had somebody that really stuck up for us here in Kansas City. That's what I can say about Anita. She really deserved all of that respect because of the time and the work and the fights that she would get in to make sure that everything was where it should be. The music at the airport, all of those little things, made a real big difference for the community here in Kansas City.
I feel like Anita is going to be one of those figures that we won't realize what she was and the hard work that she put in to promoting Kansas City until she's gone for a little while, and that's unfortunate. And there's some people like that come into this world that you don't realize until they're gone. And I feel like she's going to be one of those towering figures in the annals of Kansas City culture that will be recognized and is probably worthy of a statue somewhere.
I think it is worth it. I think it's worth it because she's been able to establish something that is not going to be taken away. The jazz cultural cities, it won't be taken away. It's part of the UNESCO, and it's something that will continue to grow. And I hope that, musicians are coming here for different reasons because this is a great place to work and to play jazz and to actually own a little bit of Kansas City, and that's not that's not what a lot of places in the United States can do and can claim. So you're right. She's worth it. Yeah. She's a hard worker. She put jazz on the map, so to speak, on the international map. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and the beauty of Anita from working and knowing her for almost, 12, 13 years was that she didn't wait for permission. She did it because it felt right, and she did it because it came from the heart. And increasingly with this volatile world we live in, one of the many reasons why I'm sad that she's not here anymore is that she had a moral fiber and an integrity that is sorely missing that we need so badly in this world.
That's very true. And she also, she's going to be missed because she deserved what she got because she worked hard at it. She was consistent and she was persistent. And she was a very powerful woman. When she spoke on the phone, you listened.
You certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah, thank you so much for this reflection. It's going to be such a wonderful piece of this mosaic of memorializing and lifting up this towering figure in Anita Dixon. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
I really
she's going to be
it.
missed.
Kansas City's very own Jacob Wagner held a very special friendship and professional working relationship with Anita. He is the Associate Professor of Urban Planning and Design at UMKC, a Kansas City champion, and was instrumental in the big vision ideas that Anita courageously brought to life, and he opened up about that whole timeline.
Jacob, thank you so much for taking this minute to talk about the mighty Anita Dixon and her towering impact on music and culture in Kansas City and jazz and beyond. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
You bet. So let's begin with your role with the city of Kansas City and how you met Anita and how you forged this working relationship and friendship with her.
Yeah, great. So I currently teach urban planning and design at UMKC. And as part of that work, I have engaged my students in research related to jazz in Kansas City since about 2007. And as part of that research, what we're looking at is the role of jazz musicians, clubs, in the development of predominantly African American neighborhoods in Kansas City. And so since 2007, I've looked at multiple neighborhoods and worked with dozens of students on the topic. And as part of that, I met Anita Dixon when she was down at the Mutual Musicians Foundation, and we ended up working together. And one of the big projects that we did together early on was in 2014, I realized that there was a Ben Webster Foundation in Copenhagen, Denmark. So Anita and I worked to reach out to to folks in Copenhagen to build that relationship. And we had kind of a celebration of the life of Ben Webster by reaching out to our friends in Copenhagen and beginning to rebuild that relationship to say, hey, Ben Webster, born and raised from Kansas City, Missouri, went on to change the world. One of the 3 tenor sax players, known around the world, major contributor to the development of global jazz. He lived and worked in Europe, based out of Copenhagen, and that's where he passed away and was laid to rest. And so Anita and I built that relationship with the Ben Webster Foundation. We brought a band here together to do a little battle of the bands. We brought Snor Kirk here and his ensemble. And we just started building that relationship, thinking about how Kansas City jazz is truly global, has had a global impact. And yet, when you ask people in Kansas City, they are not as aware of it as they need to be. And also, usually it's, New Orleans, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, other cities get more credit than Kansas City for this legacy that we call jazz.
So that has culminated to UNESCO securing one of the only designations in America. So what was kind of the evolution from the Ben Webster project to UNESCO? How did that work?
So Anita reached out and she said she wanted the Mutual Musicians Foundation building to be listed on the World Heritage Site, UNESCO World Heritage Site. And after doing a lot of research, we realized that was super difficult to achieve. And in that research process, we found the Creative Cities Network. The UNESCO Creative Cities Network was created in 2004 to advance sustainable urban development by leveraging culture and creativity to help cities, mayors lead their cities and become more sustainable, healthier, more resilient, more inclusive communities. And once Anita saw that that was an option to get our foot in the door at UNESCO, she said, let's go for that. And we were working together in 2016. The application cycle didn't open up until 2017. So I got a call from Anita around April, May 2017. And she said, hey, the application just opened up. Applications are due in June. Let's apply. So she and I worked with the city manager at the time, Troy Schulte, Mayor Sly James, Mayor Pro Tem Scott Wagner, who was on city council at the time, and his assistant, Kimberly Randolph, to put together the application. We had to get the approval of the city because the city had to sign off on the application. In addition to that, Anita had to get support from the United States mission to UNESCO, which she did. She got a support letter. And we made that application. We made the deadline in 2017. And in the fall of 2017, in November, Mayor Sly James got a letter from UNESCO congratulating Kansas City on becoming the first UNESCO Creative City of Music in the United States. And today, there are 84 UNESCO Creative Cities of Music out of 408 creative cities overall around the world. 84 of them are cities of music. And Kansas City is the first in the United States.
The thing that always stands out about Anita is that she always had a level of integrity and conviction, and she didn't really wait around for people to give her the green light. She just knew what to do and how to do it. What was the working relationship like? What was it like to see a visionary like her work and to get things done and to ultimately honor this rich tradition of Kansas City music and jazz?
Well, Anita was there. I like to say that she sat on the piano bench next to all the greats. And what I mean by that is she was there. People that we speak of today as legends, she had the opportunity to meet. And so in a lot of ways, she's a bridge between generations. She was mentored by Eddie Baker. Eddie Baker worked with John Conyers. They both worked to get jazz recognized by the United States Congress to be recognized as a national treasure. That was long before UNESCO recognized jazz as international heritage with International Jazz Day. So she was truly mentored by some of Kansas City's greats, African-American musicians who came from the tradition, and she understood it. She understood what Kansas City was like from personal experience of having lived and worked with the musicians who are legends at the Mutual Musicians Foundation, Speedy Huggins, Jay McShann, all the classic singers that we've had in Kansas City, Myra Taylor, and the list really goes on from there. She understood that heritage is not going to take care of itself. It has to be preserved and promoted. And she also understood it as a living heritage, not something that goes in a museum, but something that needs to be engaged with. Music is not a museum item. It's not meant to be, frozen in amber and, not changed. She saw it as a living heritage, and she saw the ways that education had really changed over time, and fewer people, especially working folks, had the opportunity to, get engaged in music. And so she was very, very dedicated to making sure that African Americans knew the value of the heritage and that all Americans cherished and celebrated jazz as part of a larger continuum of music, gospel, blues, ragtime. She wasn't limited to any one genre. She understood and was interested in innovations in country music, in opera, classical music. She was interested in all of it, but she was a steadfast and dedicated advocate for African Americans maintaining engagement with the culture and carrying that tradition on for future generations. I'll tell you, Joe, one of the last conversations I had with her. You mentioned how tough she was and how she really didn't wait around for other people to figure it out. She called me a few days before she passed, and she told me that I needed to start working on a grant that was due in about 2 weeks. So she was literally working up until the very end, even while she was struggling with her health. She wanted to make sure that I kept the legacy going, and then I made sure to apply for a grant.
Well, I get the sense that all of us that knew and loved Anita and worked with her understood the level of force and what she was doing, but I think she's the part now that she's gone, and I've thought about her legacy. She's the kind of figure that I don't think people are going to understand what kind of impact that she had and that she wielded until she was gone. And my question to you is, how much do you think people are going to realize, whether they know it's her name or not, that what she did, the mark that she left on Kansas City, how much of that do you think people will eventually realize that Anita Dixon was behind it?
Well, we're going to do everything we can to keep the legacy going, to keep the work with Creative City KC going, to make sure that the city doesn't forget. I think Anita generally was usually about 10 years ahead of people. I think it may take time for people to come back to understand the heritage. Right now, we're in a moment where there's a lot of talk about the future, about technology, about AI. And in that mix, what's really interesting is even as Anita was very much interested in the past, she was very much interested in the cutting edge and what people call Afrofuturism. She was very much interested in how we can leverage technology to advance history and heritage and to engage young people and to increase people's awareness of Kansas City and our musical and creative legacies. Her legacy is really important as a bridge between past generations and future generations. There's sort of this notion that every generation has to do their part. And Anita certainly has done her part. She did more than her part, and she always felt like she wasn't doing enough. But she got very frustrated with people who would, want to slow her down, take more time. And so she often just went ahead and did things. And, that could create some tension with some folks. But I think it is a massive legacy for Kansas City to be globally recognized. And around the world, people are aware of her work. They're aware of Kansas City now in, hundreds of cities around the world that, just a decade ago was not the case. So she had a huge global impact, and we certainly hope that people here at home in Kansas City will come to understand that and celebrate it however they can.
Well, I'm going to make sure that I do my part to shout it from the mountaintops. This has been absolutely wonderful. What a wonderful retrospective on Anita, which she's sorely missed and will continue to be, but hopefully these levels of archival conversations will keep that torch going. So Jacob, thank you. It's been a joy to work with you. I hope that we continue to do that in honor of Anita. So thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. We've always had massive respect for Neon Jazz. We love what you do. It's really important to keep the conversations going and engage young people out there practicing the music today. So we certainly appreciate you and all you do, and we're looking forward to carrying the legacy forward with you. Thank you so much.
The great Kansas City singer Ebony Fondren had some special memories and moments with Anita. She joined us to talk about it.
Let's hop in, and I'm curious, from kind of the alpha of meeting Anita, talk to me a little bit about how you met her and how you cultivated a relationship with her.
Well, we met off and on over the years, but I really, just worked with her in the last several years with the Creative Cities, KC and UNESCO, just sort of participating in events, offering input from an artist perspective and things like that. she and I weren't super close. I don't know if you've reached out to Amber Underwood.
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So one thing I loved about Anita, she just always kept it real, and and she was very passionate about, this project and just really trying to get it accepted here in the community. And so, we weren't really super close, but the conversations that we did have were, more like a sister to sister, kind of talking about the scene, talking about the industry. She always had words of encouragement and positive feedback for me. And that was just always, just very nice and just always good to hear, and very supportive of the endeavors that I was doing. A memory that I have right before my, because I funded all of my trips out of the country. They were not a part of UNESCO. They were not a part of Creative City. All of the trips that I have ever taken were, funded by me or my own fundraising. But she did reach out and wanted to offer, a little bit of support. And we were able to sit in a coffee shop and just talk about, Kansas City and my role and her role and just the scene. And it was just a really good connection that we were able to have before I left to go to Kansas City. I think it was my 2024 trip. I'm sad that I felt like we were kind of getting to the point of really being able to get to know each other, and that just unfortunately didn't happen because of her passing.
It was so sudden, I really, the thing about being a part of, covering this jazz community and being in it is that, unfortunately, when I hear about these passings of these titans that exist not only in Kansas City but around the world, it just takes your breath away. And when I found out that she had passed, it was just really shocking, because I knew that she was having surgery and I knew that she was on the mend, and that's all I heard. That's all I knew that was happening. So when this happened, it was sudden. And, the thing I think, and I've mentioned this to a few musicians, the beauty about Anita is that she didn't wait around. She really wanted to support the community. She wanted to support the musicians, and she wasn't going to wait for a green light from anybody. And that was a good thing. She did it in the right way. She felt like she wanted to provide opportunities to keep that history of Kansas City that's been so rich, that's been heralded for so long. I mean, I think sometimes cities get steeped and get stuck in the past, but she was a real forward-thinking person. She was like Miles Davis.
I think a lot of people mistook her passion and her forwardness. I think they took it the wrong way.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a lot of times people are so quick to pigeonhole, people. I don't want to say like the you know what I'm trying to say, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do. I totally know what you're saying. And I think that if Anita was in some different stature, there would be statues of her in this town right now for what she did, what she stood for, how she did it, the integrity. And the thing I find, especially living in this modern world with things getting more and more out of control in America, she was a very principled person. She knew right from wrong, and she exuded that integrity. And I think that's the sad thing about, there's so many things that are said about her.
And she was going to call you out on it if you were contradicting yourself, or if you were, or if it was kind of one of those, it was a lot of like, back then you didn't know me, now I'm hot and you all know me. There's a song. But it's, do you know what I mean? And that's, the minute someone starts making noise in places and spaces where other people feel like they have the what is it? I can't find my words. But it's like when somebody starts making noise in a space where you don't expect, you feel like they don't need to be,
Right.
when she's been there all along.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a thing. Yeah.
The one thing early on, I interviewed her first in 2014. One of the first conversations I had with her when I was trying to get a handle on the scene was, I'm not going to play the politics of territory and what is expected and what's supposed to happen. All I'm going to do is extol the virtues of the musicians, celebrate this music that's made so many people feel good. And that was a very shared value that both of us had. We both saw eye to eye that no matter what, we were going to fight for this music in the community and make sure that the rest of the world understood that Kansas City isn't just pigeonholed into a Charlie Parker era. It's an expanding, evolving art form, and there's cats that are coming out all the time. There are people that are moving here. There's a vibrant tapestry of musician and movements that are happening here, and both of us really tried, and I think that was a part of her UNESCO work as well.
Right. It was so much bigger than what I think a lot of folks are trying to reduce it to, and that it was so much bigger than just this, this designation and the UNESCO thing. Her work was just so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I would love for people to know that about her,
Yes, absolutely. Well, and
like I said, I'm not an expert. We were not like super duper close. I was just really getting to know her. So, and of the short time that we did get to know each other, and, I have nothing but respect for her. Nothing but respect.
So thank you. Thank you for taking a minute out to talk about her. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We also caught up with the talented jazz singer and member of Kansas City's very own The Freedom Affair and Paula Saunders. She had some wonderful memories and thoughts on the work Anita did with her and the communities that she looked to foster. Have a listen.
Cool. Okay. So as I said before, Paula, thank you so much for taking a minute out. Anita was an absolute Kansas City treasure. She's a titan. So thank you for taking a minute out to talk about her spirit and what she did.
For sure.
So let's start out from the beginning here. How did you meet Anita? What kind of relationship did you have?
So I have to go back in time now. I was introduced to Anita actually through one of my friends, my best friend and musical colleague, Amber Flutie Nastiness Underwood. She had met Anita and had talked with her about her initiative throughout Kansas City, and Amber said, hey, I know an amazing vocalist, Paula Saunders. Do you know her? And so we got introduced, and I got to hear about her mission and everything she was doing in Kansas City for the music scene, and I was like, I am super on board with everything you're doing. So that was the beginning.
So talk to me a little bit about some milestones throughout the years of like seeing the integrity, seeing the passion that she had for Kansas City and what she did for the musical community, for the jazz community in Kansas City.
Yeah, so Anita loved Kansas City and she loved the music scene, and she dedicated her life to making it well known. We know in Kansas City how amazing our jazz scene and music scene is, but the world needed to know. And so Anita put her whole life behind that. Every effort, every moment of her day, through sickness, health, whatever, she was trying to make sure that we were out there and being seen. And she supported local artists. I was fortunate enough that she sent me, along with Amber Underwood, Angela Ward, and Ariana Nemati. She sent us to Creative City, on behalf of Creative City, to Frutillar, Chile. And we got to be part of the education system down there for a little while. We were teaching about music to the students and to people in the community. We put on several concerts down there. And so we got to do like a musical exchange between ourselves and Chile. And it was a beautiful time. There are connections I made there that I still talk to them to this day. I was also fortunate to go down there just last year. I went to Valparaiso, Chile, to be part of their International Jazz Festival and to hear the different types of music from all over Chile and other parts of South America, and to be able to share what we bring from Kansas City again, the connections and the just that time together, it's invaluable.
So whenever I think about the spirit of, just how shocking it was to hear that she passed, which was totally unexpected, and I think about her legacy. I've known Anita for a long time, since 2012, 13, when she was at the foundation. What are the towering takeaways from you for the legacy that she's laid here in this town for music and culture?
Mm-hmm. So I think that, again, the love for the city and the passion for the city, this wasn't just a hobby. This was something that meant everything to her. Her belief in the education about music and sharing that. She had started a program for young children to come in and learn about music. And, we all know if the kids don't know about it, then it stops with us, right? It'll stop when we die off. That'll be the end. And she was determined that would not be the case. So I thought that was such a beautiful thing, and just her all-around passion for it. It was all she talked about. It was all she cared about. It was all she wanted. And, she immediately gravitated towards anybody who was on board with that mission. I thought that was so beautiful.
Well, Paula, thank you so much for taking a minute out to talk about the spirit of Anita. I know we're all, that we're close to her and knew her, are all really still in shock that she's not here anymore. But I just want to make sure that there's a nice tapestry of voices of people talking about the impact that she had, and she was a Titan in Kansas City, and hopefully that endures forever, because she deserves it. She did so much. It all came from the heart. And the beauty of her was that she didn't wait for permission. Anita did it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
She did it because it made sense. In this world now, there's people that don't wait for permission, that do it the wrong way. But Anita did it the right way, and especially with what we're living through now, that spirit of right and wrong that always resided in the middle of her existence is so needed and necessary, and hopefully this torch gets passed on to future generations.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to keep it going. She would want that. We lost a very bright light. Kansas City suffered a tremendous loss, but those of us who knew her, loved her, supported her, believed in her mission, we are definitely going to keep it going, because that's what she would want, and it's the right thing to do. And you're right, she did not wait. She didn't ask. It was like, I'm going to do it, and you can either get with it or get out of my way.
That's it.
And I love that about her.
I did too. That was the Anita way, and it was always done with love and kindness, and it's, there's a lot of people that have left. As I've been, in this jazz world of covering the music for 15 years, but that was an ice pick to me, because she was such a monumental human being, and I hope everybody knows that. So thank you so much for taking a minute out to talk about her spirit. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And finally, we talked to veteran jazz flutist Amber Underwood. She has a collection of special memories and spent some quality time with us to talk about Anita. Have a listen.
So I want to begin with the beginnings of your relationship, how you met Anita and how you cultivated. What was your relationship like with Anita?
I met Anita probably about 15 plus years ago. This was before Creative Cities and everything. She was just coming out of the foundation, and really I just heard her name just across the music community and things like that, and we finally met and talked and everything, and we just slowly built a friendship over time. And Anita is definitely, like you said, a titan here in the community. People either loved her or they did it. And I don't even want to kind of even say that, because I knew her definitely past that, because she really became one of my good friends, and I got to know her on a more personal level, aside from what she has accomplished and what she has done for the community. So, and it led up to her passing, and really she became a mentor to me as well. And I felt like she was really grooming me, not only just how to move about in the music community and the art space and being an advocate for the arts community, but
watching a woman of her stature, a woman of color, navigate through the Kansas City arts community. And I really, really learned a lot, especially since my background is in arts administration, music education, not only as a performer. So we just really grew together on that note, and also just on our friendship and on fashion and food and some other things. So she was really my friend, where I would probably talk to about once a week, every 2 weeks or so, would check in, and we would just kick cat and really talk about, girl, give me the tea, or whatever was going on, so yeah.
And the thing about Anita, and I've said this a few times with various musicians as we've talked about her, is she didn't ask for permission. And that was one of the endearing qualities of her. She had a vision, and she was going to do it. And what she did came straight from her heart. She was very principled. There was an integrity that was there. But I really feel like I don't know what it feels like to be a musician in this jazz community, but from my perspective, behind the microphone, covering it, I felt like she always had the jazz musicians as the number one priority in her whole vision of doing things.
I would definitely agree. She would always tell you, I am not a musician, but she knows she is definitely was all about Kansas City. She was all about preserving the history of Kansas City and the roots of jazz here in Kansas City. She was a music connoisseur of jazz music. She was also, I don't know if people know, she was an investigative journalist, researcher, and everything. And so part of urban planning and things like that. And so once she put her mind to it, she stopped asking for permission, like you said. And she was like, you know what, if you're not going to do this, then I'm going to create it myself. And so she really had a vision, and she wanted to create a legacy here to make sure that it wasn't erased. And so she started talking to me about her vision and what she wanted to do and being part of UNESCO. And I was like, huh, what? What is it? UNESCO? It's not really talked about here locally, or even, and I'm not for sure across the United States, but, globally and internationally, it's well known. And so, she really brought me into this whole new, lens of looking at music on an international stage and how to bring that here into Kansas City, and having Kansas City being a part of a national stage, and how to incorporate a music strategy and things here for the benefit of the musicians here and preserving Kansas City's jazz history.
And I don't know that people are going to understand the impact she made until she's gone for a little while. And I think that's the unfortunate legacy of someone like Anita. I think she burned so bright and hot with what she did that it's almost like, just, when certain artists leave our midst, we don't understand their impact until they're gone. And I think Anita is going to have that level of legacy and lore in Kansas City.
I definitely agree with you, Joe. And that was the main thing. This was her legacy. She's had done a lot prior till she established the creative cities and all that, and bringing us into the UNESCO. And I just want to mention, we are the first city in the United States designated as a creative city of music. But that is her legacy. And so now, no matter whatever you feel about her, or if you had run-ins with her, she was unapologetic on how she felt about certain things. If she didn't like you. It was just one or the other. It wasn't really anything in between. And she got things done, and she didn't like people in her way, especially when she had a vision. She had something said. She was like, well, she will walk around you. She will find another way. She'll find a back door to get that done, because she knew that this would be something that Kansas City needed, and it was a conversation that needed to be had. And so I really don't think that people knew exactly the force that they have just lost. And I think a lot of people are coming into it brand new, and learning a lot about what Creative Cities is, and what the global music strategy is all about. And so it's just our job to be able to preserve her legacy and to be able to move it forward. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah, and that's so well said, and that's exactly why I want to get so many different voices in to do a proper reflection on what she did and who she was, because she had a very fierce love, not only for this music and for the culture that Kansas City had, but just overall, like everybody that she was around that was a part of her circle, she loved them, and that's what I hope people take from the legacy of Anita Dixon, is that she truly had a very fierce love, and I just hope we honor that for decades and decades to come. And I really think she should have a statue somewhere. I think there needs to be some level of memorial.
Of course, with accessories.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Yes.
But
yes.
It's still a shock that she's gone, but I'm so glad that there's so many wonderful voices in this creative jazz community that are holding her up in the love that she deserves. And
definitely.
So thank you for your words. Very eloquent, beautiful. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate you. It's good to hear from you.
In closing, and all the sadness and unexpectedness of her passing, I'm grateful to have known such a force and to work with a true champion. The fact that she lived and fought for Kansas City made us all better, and especially those that knew her. And know this, Anita did not ask for permission, because her gut feeling was always solid. And she stood for what she believed in. She knew truth, she knew soul, and it was unwavering. And she always loved neon jazz. And when she spearheaded of what was to be one of the first 24-hour jazz radio stations in Kansas City via KOJH 104.7 FM out of the Mutual Musicians Foundation, she reached out to me first to be a central part of that orchestration. I will always be grateful for Anita Dixon. And with that, thank you, Anita, and for all of you out there for celebrating this legacy today and on in to forever. Magnify enough what you've done for the jazz community and what you're doing with UNESCO, and this event is just another part of your timeline that's stellar. So thank you for taking a minute out. We will shout all this from the mountaintops, get all the links in there, and we're going to get people, we're going to fill the seats and have a wonderful time celebrating jazz.
Well, it's so good to see you. Always it's so good to be on Neon Jazz again. It's always been a blast.
Yes.
Just getting out there. So anything you need from us, just let us know.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in Kansas City and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to the very mighty Anita Dixon-Brown for everything. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.